Let me encourage you to envision a pair of living spaces right now. These two residences are located within the identical urban center, the very same local district, and they command approximately equivalent monthly leasing fees. The initial dwelling is occupied by an individual who pulls in an annual salary of $95,000. Step through the entrance of this first home, and you'll immediately spot a huge 75-inch flat-screen TV securely affixed to the living room wall. Nearby sits an opulent leather couch arrangement that originally retailed for $4,000, dominating the space with its luxurious presence. Venture into the cooking area, and it's packed with various household devices, the majority of which remain sealed inside their factory packaging, unused and gathering dust. The cabinets and counters overflow with these gadgets that were bought but never put to practical use in daily life. Peek into the wardrobes, and they're bursting at the seams with garments, numerous pieces still bearing their purchase labels, indicating they've never been worn. This accumulation of attire creates a chaotic scene of excess and forgotten impulse buys from various shopping sprees. The extra sleeping quarter has been transformed into a makeshift warehouse for assorted belongings that haven't seen the light of day in ages. Boxes and items pile up, turning what could be a functional room into a cluttered storage unit full of neglected possessions. This resident examines their financial statements online with a tight feeling of anxiety in their chest. They are precariously close to disaster, merely a couple of skipped salary deposits away from facing severe economic hardship and potential instability in their daily existence. Now, consider the alternative residence, inhabited by someone whose yearly earnings amount to $52,000. As you cross the threshold, the first thing that strikes you is the abundant open area, free from unnecessary clutter and promoting a sense of tranquility. You'll observe a straightforward sofa that's comfortable yet unpretentious, perfectly suited for everyday relaxation without excess. Accompanying it is a television of moderate dimensions, sufficient for entertainment needs but not dominating the room or demanding undue attention. The culinary space contains precisely the utensils and equipment that see regular employment in meal preparation. Nothing superfluous occupies the counters or drawers, ensuring efficiency and ease in daily cooking routines without the burden of unused implements. The storage for apparel holds only the pieces that are frequently donned, creating an organized and practical collection. No forgotten items or excess fill the space, allowing for quick selection and maintaining a streamlined wardrobe that serves real needs. The additional bedroom serves its intended purpose as a proper sleeping area, complete with essential furnishings. It's not repurposed for hoarding, providing genuine utility and contributing to the overall sense of order in the household. This occupant reviews their banking details with a composed and assured demeanor. They've amassed reserves covering 18 months of living costs and consistently allocate 20% of each salary toward investment opportunities for future growth. Despite residing in the identical district, the individual with nearly half the salary enjoys almost tenfold the level of economic stability. This contrast highlights a profound lesson not centered on earnings, but on deeper principles of possession management. This narrative isn't fundamentally about salary levels or earning potential. Instead, it illuminates the often overlooked connection between material belongings and financial well-being that the majority of individuals fail to fully comprehend or appreciate in their lives. The occupant of the initial dwelling isn't mismanaging finances in evident manners. They avoid risky betting or costly habits like substance dependencies. Rather, they've slowly built up a way of living that demands every cent of their income to sustain without room for error. In contrast, the second resident uncovered a transformative insight that altered their entire approach to life. They realized that possessing fewer items doesn't equate to a diminished quality of existence, but rather fosters intentional and purposeful daily living. Such purposeful existence generates a buffer of economic flexibility that even those with substantial salaries seldom achieve. It allows for breathing room in budgets and reduces constant pressure from financial obligations tied to excessive ownership. In this presentation, I'll guide you step by step through the essential guidelines of minimalist finance that distinguish those who consistently maintain wealth from those who perpetually struggle, irrespective of their earning bracket or professional status. These principles aren't focused on self-denial or sacrificing joys. Instead, they emphasize recognizing that each belonging carries continuous expenses that you've likely never properly assessed or factored into your decision-making process. Allow me to introduce an idea that will fundamentally shift your perspective on all future acquisitions throughout your lifetime. Each item you acquire demands payment not once, but on two separate occasions, with implications far beyond initial expectations. The primary expense is straightforward and apparent. It's the amount listed on the sales slip or charged to your card. However, there's a secondary expenditure that the vast majority overlook entirely, and it frequently surpasses the original outlay in magnitude. This follow-up cost encompasses areas like housing the item, keeping it in good condition, the cognitive load it imposes, and the foregone benefits from alternative uses of those funds. These elements add up in ways that are rarely considered upfront. Consider that exercise machine you acquired for fitness goals. It demands dedicated floor area in your residence. In city environments, space typically runs between $30 and $50 per square foot each year in effective housing costs. Accounting for necessary surrounding clearance, such equipment occupies roughly 20 square feet. This translates to an annual hidden rental fee of $600 to $1,000, just to keep this workout device that often serves as a clothes rack instead. Furthermore, the follow-up expense involves routine care and preservation. Take a vessel parked in your driveway. It requires seasonal preparation, thorough washing, official licensing, coverage protection, and periodic fixes to remain operational. Experts in the field estimate yearly upkeep expenses at around 10% of the craft's market worth. For a $30,000 watercraft, that's $3,000 annually simply for possession, regardless of whether it's ever launched into water. But wait, there's more to consider. The subsequent cost also incorporates psychological resources. Every object in your possession claims a portion of your focus and thought process. It demands periodic tidying, arrangement, servicing, protection, concern, and ultimate removal. Scientific studies have demonstrated that excessive visible disarray elevates stress hormone levels and impairs cognitive concentration abilities. Your accumulated belongings are subtly causing tension in manners that escape your aware perception or conscious awareness. And still, we're not finished. The additional expense includes the loss of potential gains. Each currency unit invested in tangible goods is one not placed in growth opportunities like stock market funds, missing out on compound interest over time. A $15,000 domestic fitness setup might alternatively have been allocated to diversified portfolios, potentially expanding to $50,000 or beyond across a 15-year span. You haven't merely acquired exercise gear, you've forfeited prospective economic independence. When you tally all these concealed charges, numerous assets end up demanding more resources to retain than to initially obtain. The upfront payment is merely the admission charge, while the persistent fees endure throughout the duration of ownership. Those who embrace minimalism grasp this concept on an instinctive level. They aren't shunning belongings due to disdain for quality items. Rather, they've meticulously evaluated the complete expenses and concluded that the majority simply don't justify the investment. This understanding naturally guides us to the primary principle that adherents of minimalism adhere to with unwavering commitment. Principle number 1. Always compute the expense per utilization prior to committing to any acquisition, no matter how small. Prior to acquiring any product, project a realistic count of how frequently you'll employ it. Then, divide the full price by this figure. The resulting value represents the expense per instance, serving as the most accurate indicator of its true worth. For instance, a $200 coat donned only twice equates to $100 each time. Conversely, a $400 coat used 200 times drops to just $2 per occasion, making the pricier option more economical overall. This method swiftly dismantles the appeal of spontaneous buys. A $300 culinary device employed biannually results in $150 per application in the initial 12 months, an extravagantly costly means to achieve its function. On the other hand, a $30 implement utilized every 7 days amounts to under 60 cents per employment during the first year. This stark contrast highlights how frequency of use dramatically alters perceived value and affordability. The per-use expense also spotlights acquisitions that truly merit consideration. A $2,000 sleeping surface employed nightly over a decade reduces to approximately 55 cents per night, delivering exceptional return for health and vitality impacts. Similarly, a $1,500 coffee brewer operated daily across 5 years falls below $1 per session, potentially yielding savings when compared against regular visits to local cafes for similar beverages. Such calculations pierce through advertising hype, sentimental impulses, and societal expectations. They expose what genuinely aligns with sound economics versus what merely appears attractive or desirable in the heat of the moment. Moving forward, The second guideline involves implementing the substitution evaluation on all your current holdings. Stroll through your living space and examine every single object in your possession with a critical eye. Pose this straightforward inquiry to yourself. Should this article vanish right now? Would I allocate funds to acquire an identical replacement? Provide a truthful response without self-deception or rationalization. Would you genuinely repurchase that fondue apparatus? Would you invest in another bread-baking machine that's languishing unused in your storage? Would you buy back those outfits untouched for over a year and a half? For the bulk of belongings, the sincere reply is negative. You wouldn't bother replacing them. They linger in your environment due to habitual momentum, not active choice or ongoing utility in your routine. These things originated as spur-of-the-moment acquisitions, presents you felt compelled to retain, or leftovers from former interests and life stages that you've since outgrown and moved past entirely. Such possessions actually hold detrimental worth. They consume your available area, drain your psychological resources, and require upkeep without delivering any commensurate advantages or positive contributions to your existence. Each moment devoted to arranging, dusting around, or contemplating items you'd never repurchase is time diverted from pursuits that hold real significance and bring genuine fulfillment to your days. Proponents of minimalism decisively remove belongings that don't pass this substitution assessment. They market valuables, contribute usable goods to others, and dispose of what's beneficial to no one, clearing space effectively. Initially, this elimination may feel awkward or challenging, but upon completion, it brings a profound sense of freedom. The emotional burden of retaining unwanted or unnecessary things is surprisingly heavy and oppressive. Alleviating this load generates cognitive room that's hard to articulate but instantly perceptible. Living areas appear more expansive, choices become straightforward, maintenance requires less effort, and locating items is effortless since all retained have intent. The third principle advises against ever modernizing simply due to ennui. I frequently observe this behavior in well-compensated individuals who amass no lasting assets. They refresh functional goods out of tedium or novelty availability. Their current screen functions impeccably, yet the latest edition offers marginally superior image quality. Their mobile device performs without issues, but the recent version boasts a slightly enhanced photographic capability that tempts replacement. Their automobile provides dependable conveyance, but the current model year features refreshed aesthetics. Their home furnishings fulfill their role adequately, yet familiarity breeds discontent, prompting desires for change without necessity. These enhancements masquerade as advancements, but actually erode accumulated prosperity. Minimalism advocates enforce a rigid directive. Refrain from substituting any item that continues to operate effectively and meet its intended function. A communication device that handles calls, messaging, and applications sufficiently doesn't warrant exchange merely because an updated variant appears on the market, promising incremental improvements that may not justify the cost. A vehicle that safely and consistently moves you from place to place needs no successor simply because an acquaintance acquired a more flashy model, sparking envy or a sense of outdatedness in your current possession. Adhering to this approach yields massive preservations over decades. Typical U.S. residents swap mobiles every 24 to 36 months despite operational status, leading to $30,000 to $50,000 squandered across 3 decades. Extending this to various sectors influenced by renewal trends, the cumulative dissipation over a lifespan readily surpasses $200,000, representing lost opportunities for investment or other meaningful allocations. Minimalism practitioners precisely delineate functionality. An article stays viable until it truly ceases to fulfill its core role. Mere disinterest isn't malfunction. Craving freshness isn't breakdown. Newer options existing isn't inadequacy. Authentic, structural failure or complete incapacity to execute essential duties constitutes true obsolescence. All else stems from promotional strategies persuading you to address non-existent issues or fabricated deficiencies in your current setup. Principle 4 centers on establishing barriers to expenditure while facilitating accumulation of reserves. People's actions typically follow the route of minimal effort. Easy spending coupled with hard saving leads to depletion. The reverse promotes growth. Advocates of simplicity design their surroundings to favor wise selections automatically. Barriers to buying include erasing saved payment details from digital merchants, mandating a full-day delay for optional buys, and removing retail applications from devices. Further obstacles involve canceling subscriptions to marketing communications and steering clear of physical shops, except when pursuing a predetermined item, reducing exposure to temptations that trigger unplanned acquisitions. Facilitating reserves appears as automated deductions to asset accounts upon compensation receipt, maintaining minimal balances in immediate access accounts, and prioritizing reserve contributions before discretionary funds become visible. View reserves as an obligatory outlay rather than a residual consideration after other spending. These systemic adjustments outweigh personal discipline, as resolve wanes with fatigue, tension, or heightened feelings throughout the day. Surrounding conditions remain steady and reliable. An individual depending solely on self-control to resist sudden buys will inevitably succumb during vulnerable moments, whereas one with removed temptations can't act impulsively at all. Simplicity enthusiasts distrust their ability to invariably choose wisely. They construct frameworks that render positive choices instinctive. The single-day postponement policy eradicates about 70% of whimsical purchases on its own. The majority of cravings for material goods dissipate within 24 hours if not fulfilled instantly, allowing rational thought to prevail over momentary excitement or perceived necessity in the buying process. The fifth tenet involves routinely tallying your belongings. This may appear excessive until you implement it personally. Enumerating cultivates mindfulness, and mindfulness halts unchecked growth of possessions over time. Select a specific group of items, quantify exactly how many you possess within that group, and record the figure. These totals frequently astonish those who've never objectively scrutinized their acquisition habits or patterns. How numerous are your tops or blouses? Individuals often underestimate and learn they own triple or quadruple their guess. What about culinary tools? Footwear pairs? Contents of your miscellaneous storage? Volumes you'll never peruse again. The act of quantification itself modifies conduct. Upon realizing you hold 47 shirts, acquiring an additional one shifts perspective. You're not merely adding, you're elevating to 48, making the excess evident and questionable. Simplicity followers monitor principal groups longitudinally. They establish upper limits, such as 30 garments altogether, 15 tomes concurrently, or a replacement policy where newcomers necessitate departing equivalents. These restrictions curb gradual lifestyle inflation. Absent deliberate boundaries, holdings expand to occupy all accessible capacity. With boundaries, every inclusion demands thoughtful deliberation on what it displaces or supersedes. This built-in resistance substantially curtails new additions. The mere requirement for evaluation and trade-off discourages casual accumulation and promotes more intentional decisions regarding material possessions. Guideline 6 recommends leasing or lending prior to purchasing. Most acquired goods experience intense initial usage followed by infrequent employment thereafter. As novelty wanes and enthusiasm diminishes progressively, the belonging then integrates into the array of owned yet rarely accessed items, occupying space without contribution. Simplicity practitioners counter this by testing via temporary access before permanent commitment. Eager for outdoor tenting? Lease gear for initial excursions. Interested in timber crafting? Obtain tools temporarily from acquaintances or communal workshops. Desiring a paddlecraft? Hire multiple sessions before ownership. This strategy achieves dual objectives. Primarily, it discloses if the passion is enduring or fleeting. Numerous pursuits lose appeal post-preliminary engagement, better identified during rental than post-purchase regret. Secondly, it specifies precise requirements. Novice adventurers frequently overbuy or select inappropriately. Temporary use educates prior to dedication, ensuring eventual buys are targeted and minimal rather than speculative. The purchase initial mindset inflicts massive financial tolls across lifetimes. Storage spaces nationwide harbor forgotten relics of discontinued pastimes, like winter sports gear from envisioned frequent outings that never materialized, imaging equipment from aspirations of professional picture-taking, musical instruments from short-lived ensemble participations. These accumulate as monuments to transient zeal, burdening space without ongoing value or enjoyment. Minimalism avoids transforming homes into archives of former interests. They validate pursuits before funding them. Preserving adaptability to investigate new areas sans the weight of perpetual ownership obligations. The seventh doctrine concerns comprehending the cascading impact of lifestyle choices. Each asset you hold interlinks with additional assets, creating chains of dependencies that amplify overall commitments. A maritime vessel necessitates an attachment trailer. A tow-capable automobile, shelter charges, servicing materials, protective gear, and suitable attire turning a seemingly isolated buy into a web of supplementary requirements. This phenomenon is the expansion multiplier for living standards. Significant acquisitions spawn networks of associated outlays, ensuring the authentic expense far exceeds the standalone item's price tag. Observe this in typical investments. A personal workout facility demands specialized ground covering, reflective surfaces, organizational systems, air circulation adjustments, and frequently structural modifications for suitability. A swimming installation calls for chemical treatments, sanitation implements, protective coverings, outdoor seating, upkeep instruments, and often environmental enhancements to integrate seamlessly with the property. A two-wheeled motor vehicle requires riding apparel, secure housing, repair supplies, and commonly a haul vehicle or attachment for relocation to preferred terrains, expanding the commitment substantially. Simplicity adherents assess the complete interconnected expense prior to major commitments. They recognize a $5,000 investment may truly encompass $8,000 or $12,000 when incorporating all ancillary costs. This comprehensive reckoning frequently converts what appeared as a sensible expenditure into an evidently overindulgent one, prompting reconsideration and often avoidance of unnecessary escalation in lifestyle. The expansion dynamic operates inversely too. Divesting a primary asset commonly eradicates whole classes of linked expenditures, like disposing of a vessel eliminating shelter fees, coverage, licensing, servicing, and haul costs. The preservations transcend the object's resale worth, extending to ongoing relief from the entire support network's financial drain, creating substantial long-term benefits in budget management. Principle 8 entails establishing sufficiency prior to income generation. This snares affluent individuals repeatedly. They fail to delineate adequacy, perpetuating endless acquisition without attaining contentment. As earnings rise, they elevate their standard of living accordingly. This upgraded norm then requires further salary boosts for perceived advancement, forming a perpetual loop without resolution or satisfaction. Those grossing $300,000 annually experience equivalent fiscal strain as $80,000 earners, since aspirations and outlays inflated parallel to compensation, leaving no additional margin. Minimalism disrupts this pattern by predetermining adequacy before revenue pursuit. They predetermine suitable housing, vehicular needs, and comfort thresholds that yield authentic fulfillment without excess. This could involve settling on a $350,000 residence as adequate, even with capacity for $600,000, or a $30,000 automobile sufficient amid peers' $70,000 choices. It might entail viewing your existing clothing assortment as ample, despite rising earnings permitting frequent refreshments or expansions that aren't truly required for daily functionality or satisfaction. Establishing sufficiency provides a definitive endpoint. Lacking it results in an infinite pursuit where living standard growth perpetually exceeds salary advancements, preventing true progress or stability. With a target, surplus revenue directs fully to reserves and assets rather than consumption, one capping adequacy at $60,000 yearly outlay while earning $150,000 amasses riches rapidly. The $90,000 disparity between earnings and sufficiency channels straight to economic autonomy. Contrastingly, an identical earner perpetually inflating adequacy might preserve virtually nothing despite high income. The ninth precept measures prosperity via flexibility rather than hoardings. Traditional metrics assess affluence by tangible holdings like dwellings, vehicles, goods overt symbols of achievement and status. Simplicity proponents gauge it by available selections. Can you abandon employment harming psychological well-being? Allocate half a year to familial crises? Relocate for personal bonds? Launch ventures sans assured pay? Cease working pre-65? Decline lucrative but principle-violating prospects? These liberties embody authentic prosperity, accessible solely to those cultivating wide gaps between revenues and expenditures. A $200,000 earner expending $195,000 possesses minimal flexibility, bound by income dependency. An $80,000 earner outlaying $45,000 enjoys vast flexibility for disruptions, ventures, preference-based decisions. Simplicity followers comprehend that such liberty demands fluid capital over material goods. Funds bound in superfluous vehicles can't purchase autonomy during critical junctures or life shifts. Property value trapped in oversized housing can't support professional pivots or prolonged breaks. This viewpoint reshapes expenditure choices, each by trade's liberty for ownership, prompting evaluation of worthiness. 10 at 10 advocates ongoing periodic clearing over yearly massive overhauls. Typical minimalism attempts involve grand eliminations feeling rewarding briefly, followed by slow regathering unnoticed until baseline return. Within 24 months, conditions revert entirely. Simplicity experts sidestep this via recurring decluttering, regular minor inspections, instead of infrequent major purges, maintaining control continuously. This includes weekly checks on new arrivals, monthly category assessments, quarterly overall pattern reviews. Such rhythm detects buildup early, preventing overwhelming re-escalation and sustaining order. Discarding a few pieces weekly proves feasible and enduring. Annual removal of hundreds overwhelms and delays perpetually, making consistent small actions far more effective for long-term maintenance. Recurring evaluation sustains vigilance. You detect expanding sectors, acquisition triggering moods, effective personal marketing ploys enabling proactive avoidance over reactive correction in possession management. Here's a tangible application of these tenets to initiate immediately. This week, traverse your residence applying the substitution criterion. Pinpoint 10 belongings you wouldn't repurchase if lost. Mark it, contribute, or eliminate those pieces. Observe the sensation of parting with undesired items. This month, enforce the day-long pause for non-vital buys and monitor survival versus dissipation of urges. The insights will illuminate the proportion of expenditures driven by whim versus purpose. This trimester, enumerate holdings in 3 prone-to-growth areas: attire, culinary wares, amusement media. Establish upper bounds per group based on actual utilization. Annually, delineate sufficiency in key outlay domains: adequate dwelling, sufficient conveyance, wardrobe fulfilling authentic requirements, document and consult during temptations. These habits' monetary evolution multiplies temporally. Consistent 5-year application yields reduced accumulation alongside amplified reserves, forging prosperity via income lifestyle disparity unattainable otherwise. An undisclosed truth about simplicity and finances. The link flows both ways. Reduced ownership generates greater funds, yet abundant funds normalize reduced ownership, diminishing accumulation impulses as security grows. Robust reserves satisfy security and prestige needs via fiscal power over material displays. Consumption cycles stem from insecurity. Voids temporarily filled by buying resolve insecurity fiscally. Compulsion fades, spawning reinforcing virtuous loops of saving and peace.